Okay. So we completed 2 chapters, chapter 1 and chapter 2. We are in the chapter 3, Karma Yoga. Yoga of action or work in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so let us do a way of Manglacharan. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Navanaka Shalakaya Chakshumitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manoabhishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vittam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakana Vittamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dino Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatrabhyascha Kripa Sindhave Evacha Patitam Nam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasha Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna to everyone. Thank you for coming. So let us start. So what did we see? In chapter 1, it was all about Arjuna's lamentation. So Arjuna's lamentation is why? Because when he saw his relatives and friends and all in the battlefield, they're ready to fight, he was overwhelmed with compassion. So he gave his reasons to Lord Krishna, saying that why he doesn't want to fight. So we saw it was due to compassion, and he said there's no enjoyment, and there were sinful reactions and destruction of family. Then in chapter 2, actually chapter 2 was too long, no? It was that more than 70 slokas. It was an introductory summary of the entire Gita, actually. It's very long. And there it starts with where Arjuna gave some more reasons, saying that because his guru is there and his grandfather, and it's not, and he is bewildered. He can't decide. So he comes to an indecision state, and then he asks the Lord Krishna to, you are my guru, I am your student, disciple, you please tell me what is best for me. Finally, Arjuna surrenders to Lord Krishna. So then Krishna takes the position of a guru and starts explaining, counteracting his arguments and why he has to fight, right? We saw that. And there were many points. I mean, points where and concepts were given by the Lord. And now Arjuna is confused. Actually, he starts off saying, and in fact, Lord covers the entire gamut. So he gives the theory and explains the same in a more. Now Arjuna starts asking questions because he has not understood. So what was that? Arjuna's further doubts and surrender. Then first the Lord gives him the identity. He says we are the soul and not the body. So and soul is eternal and there's no death for the soul, and the body has to perish anyway. So you fight, you're not killing anybody because they are eternal. They are there in the past and they will be in the future also, and you are not killing the soul. So the soul is eternal, so you fight. Gives them the jnana. Jnana has the Atma Tattva. That is, we are the soul and not the body. And then for counteracting for enjoyment, he said, it is your swadharma. It's your duty. As a, you're born as a, you're taken the body of a Kshatriya, so you fight. So you think. But as a soul, you have another dharma, that is Sanatana Dharma. It's an eternal. So that soul will also have an eternal duty, that is to serve the Lord. So in both cases, it's your duty to do your duty. So fight. And also, whether you win or you lose the war, it's a win-win situation, right? There you will have material gain anyway. Either you go to higher planets or you will have a kingdom to enjoy in this world. So that way, it is there in both situations. So you fight. Fight for gains come from duty-free fighting. And only if you don't fight, only there's a loss. Then for sinful reaction, the Lord gives him the Buddhi Yoga. You fight, but without any reaction. That is, you fight as per your duty, with a sense of duty. When you do that, not for yourself, that means you go beyond the enjoyment. And you just do your work, duty, work as a duty. There is a source in. So then Arjuna asks Krishna that how is such a person? How is a person who is in Sthita Prajna? How does he do? So Arjuna asks 4 more questions about the Sthita Prajna. And he explains, then the Lord explains the concept of Buddhi Yoga. So if one acts with this attitude, then sin will not touch you. You do not get affected by the sin. So this is how we think. Finally, he said how the Sthita Prajna will reach the final destination. And he will, and a beautiful analogy was given by the Lord, saying the Sthita Prajna is person like a tortoise. If there's any temptations to do things, he will control his senses. He will withdraw himself into himself. Like the tortoise, now when there's a danger, he takes his face and the limbs and everything into his shell and will wait till the danger passes away. Same way, the Sthita Prajna person will withdraw his senses. He is able to control his senses in such a way that he will not be tempted by any of the sense objects. And the Lord also explained us how we, once person, if he is not able to control his senses, how he gets bewildered. Gets attached, and then lust develops, then the anger develops and leads to memory, loss of memory, bewilderment, and then finally you fall down. So, but after explaining all that, now Arjuna has got questions. Because why he is asking questions? That means he has not understood clearly, and still he is not able to decide whether to why fight at all. So that still that question is lingering in his mind. Okay. So now we have 43 slokas in this chapter. So here the starts off with the confusion. It's very simple. He doesn't want to fight. No, still that is lingering, that thing. So he says, I'm a soul. So why I have to do any activity? I'm not a body. So why do any fighting? Why do I think? Why not just renounce and go away? So this confusion is still in his mind, whether to renounce or work in Krishna, Nishkama Karma. So then now Krishna is going to give 2 arguments from Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga. Then Nishkama Karma, he explains it, acting beautifully with detachment to set the correct example, to beware of lust and things. So we have these 4 sections: Arjuna's confusion, renunciation, for action, and then how Krishna is giving 2 arguments. That is, for renunciation is difficult, so you do your karma with detachment. Do Nishkama Karma Yoga is better. That's what the Lord says. That's one argument. Another argument that he says, actually renunciation is difficult. So even if Arjuna is qualified renunciation, he still has to do Nishkama Karma Yoga to set the right example. Okay, so that is the argument, counter argument. And then Arjuna has a doubt. He says, there is some force which is forcing me to, though I know it's right and all that, but still there's something which is forcing me to do sinful action. So then the Lord explains the lust, how the signs of lust, how it is a formidable enemy. It's the Vairenya. So how should one conquer the lust by deliberate spiritual inclination. So these are the 4 sections, and today we'll do the first sections. Okay. Dealing with the confusion whether renouncing or working in Nishkama Karma Yoga. Right? So Arjuna Uvacha Jasi Chet Karmanaste Mata Buddhir Janardana Tat Kim Karmani Gore Mam Niyojasi Keshava. So what is the conclusion here? Renunciation of work. So here Krishna is asking, Arjuna is asking Krishna, why are you engaging me in this costly warfare? Karmani Gorema. When you say it is intelligent, you have to act with intelligence and do not and avoid the wrongful actions. Then why are you asking me to take part in this ghastly warfare? So he is asking straight away, Mata Buddhir Janardana. He is addressing him as Janardana. Why are you asking me to kill people when you are the ones who are maintaining everybody? So this is the thing. So this is some kind of escapism. So how do we say that he did the Lord say that you should not do wrongful actions, or how? What is the thing? What is the verse which is connecting chapter 2 and 3? See, this is a dialogue between the discussion which is going on between Arjuna and the thing. There's nothing like, you put a section wise, but only thing we just chapter wise there have been section 2 for a better understanding. But it is a continuous dialogue. So where was that when Krishna was telling which God made Arjuna confess? In the sloka 2.49, Krishna tells Arjuna to keep all abominable activities far distant by Buddhi Yoga. So here what is Arjuna is thinking that Buddhi means intelligence. So we have to use our intelligence to keep away the abominable activities. That means I don't have to do any activity. I don't have to do, and fighting is an abominable activity. So why I should fight? Why I should take part in thing? That is the kind. So by using his intelligence, he should avoid all abominable fights and thus not fight. So he thinks, yes, told me no, not to fight. I mean, use our intelligence and discriminate about the activities. And here fighting is an abominable activity. So he thinks that means I have to not to fight. But in the end, Arjuna Krishna was telling him, no, do your duty and you have to fight. So he's thinking this is a contradictory statement. That means if I use my intelligence and think, then I should not fight. And here Krishna is telling you fight. So that is the Buddhi Yoga. That means that is the confusion Arjuna is having. So begins with Arjuna's question to clarify this contradictory sitting. Because, yeah. So let us see what. So according to Arjuna, renunciation and work are incompatible. That means if you have to use your intelligence and doing the work are not the same. Oh, why do you want to engage the same thing? And here in the purport, anyone would like to read this? It's like is spirituality and escapism. So that means they wants to escape. Actually, now Arjuna is skillfully telling Krishna that why you have to use, you're telling me to be intelligent and you're telling me to avoid abominable activities, and then you're asking me to fight. So he wants to avoid the fighting. So actually, this is what some confusion will be there. People thought that Buddhi Yoga is something like retired life. He wants to use Krishna conscience as a means of escape. Go to a lonely place, do sadhana. So this is the mistake which Arjuna is thinking. So is spirituality and escapism. Arjuna also thought of Krishna consciousness or intelligence in spiritual advancement of knowledge as something like retirement from active life and the practice of penance and austerity at a secluded place. In other words, he wanted to skillfully avoid the fighting by using Krishna consciousness. In fact, this many people make this mistake, that is when they come to this devotees, when they come, they join this movement, ISKCON movement, okay? And he goes, they will disconnect themselves from parents, from society, from relationships. It's like, their outburst of artificial renouncing. Actually, this is an unhealthy understanding. So it is not that you have to escape from them. It's not an escape. So we have to do. So purpose, right? This is but one more thing here, what we understand is, Arjuna, though he had this misunderstanding, but one good quality was there. What was it? Whenever he had these doubts, he approaches Krishna to clarify. So he's telling, tell me what is best for me. So for anybody in our devotees, in a sadhaka's life and thing, we should ask our well-wishers to clarify. Never try to do it by ourselves. Okay. So this is one thing as a good student he is. So what does Krishna, then Arjuna continues, my intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial to Tat Ekam Vada Nishchaya. So he's telling now, tell me one thing, suggesting that you are increasing my confusion. Actually, Krishna is not increasing, he is actually explaining the concepts. But now he wants to have more thing to give him clarity. So when we go to someone for help, we think that this is the problem and this is the solution. So when we go to someone for some explanation, what we think, we expect our solution only they should say, but they might come up with some other solution. And that might be actually a better one. But so we should accept it. So we should think, okay, this person is more intelligent, is more experienced, so he's able to look at the problem in a better way. So we should leave a false ego and accept his solution. So we need to, so here Arjuna is asking Krishna, what is more beneficial for me? He thought not fighting was more beneficial, but Krishna is saying, no, fighting is beneficial. So he wants him to tell clearly the confusion. So Arjuna had no intention of confusing Arjuna. Krishna had no intention of confusing Arjuna by any jugglery of words. Arjuna could not follow the process of Krishna consciousness, either by inertia or by active service. Inertia means that is he wants to take sannyas, so he didn't want to fight. In other words, by his questions, he is clearing the path of Krishna consciousness for all students who seriously want to understand the mystery. So what happens is, by asking questions, Arjuna is in that role now. He is in that role of ours as a conditioned soul who is having these doubts, right? So when he is asking questions, it's actually for our benefit, right? Only then we can understand the science, the teachings of the Lord. So sometimes things may appear contradictory to the student, but the spiritual master is conversant in these matters. So he does not say anything contradictory, okay? We will only misunderstand. Therefore, we should ask questions in any other problem we have such contradictory. So this is what. Another thing we saw in the last chapter about this sloka 2.47, where Krishna says, Karmani evadikaste ma paleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetu gur ma te sango akarman. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. So never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing. So here, it is our adhikar to do our prescribed duty, but we are not entitled to results. So here, actually, Krishna was telling us to renounce the results and not the action. Okay? And never consider the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing. So we have to do a duty. So this is where a thing. So this is the confusion. Renounce the activity or renounce the results. Yeah, but Krishna is very clear, but this is we saw this in the last chapter, right? So this is the thing where the whole thing comes about. That is, we have to renounce the fruits and not the thing, because we are not the cause of the results. There are other players in this. So finally, Arjuna is telling Krishna to tell him one thing, the right way, whether we have to do this. Okay. So as a soul, how to grow? Nothing. So let us see the purport if there's anything else we have missed out. Okay, anyone can read this purport in the previous chapter? Hare Krishna. Oh, nobody, everybody is silent. No one wants to read the purport.
Hare Krishna. I will read, ma'am.
Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. In the previous chapter, as a prelude to the Bhagavad Gita, many different paths were explained, such as Sankhya Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, control of the senses by intelligence, and work without fruitive desire and position of the neophyte. This was all presented unsystematically. A more organized outline of the path would be necessary for the action and understanding. Arjuna therefore wanted to clear up these apparently confusing matters so that any common man could accept them without misinterpretations. Although Krishna had no intention of confusing Arjuna by any jugglery of words, Arjuna could not follow the process of Krishna consciousness either by inertia or by active service. In other words, by his question, he is clearing the path of Krishna consciousness for all students who seriously want to understand the mystery of Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna.
So now onwards, you must see that here Krishna is going to give us a more systematic way. See, earlier in this chapter, he told so many theories and it was all confusing, right? It was not in an organized manner. Now, then from this chapter onwards, you can see how in a systematic manner, Krishna will tell about this path teachings in a step by step. We'll take Arjuna step by step from Karma Yoga to then to Bhakti Yoga. Then he talks about the Jnana Yoga, right? That way. So now, see, that will, unless if you do in a systematic manner only, the subject will be more, you will be, understanding will be better. So that is what here, organized outline of the path will be necessary. So this is the thing which Krishna understands that and how he goes by taking in a thing. No, I think I saw. Okay. So now Krishna is going to explain about the Nishkama Karma Yoga. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Lokasmi Dvi Vida Nishta Pura Prokta Maya Nagaha Nana Yogena Sankyanam Karma Yogena Yogena. So blessed Lord said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that two classes of men who realize the self. Some are inclined to understand him by empirical philosophical speculation and others are inclined to know him by devotional work. So here Krishna is saying that there are two categories of people, okay, with different faith. That Nishta means faith and Dvida means two categories. One is category who is, for him, no, he cannot study anything, okay. He only will be inclined to do work. So for him, he will do any kind of work. He'll be planning, he'll organize himself and he will take up that thing and he'll always be working. So that is it. But for him, developing knowledge and all that is difficult. It's just a karma yoga. Okay, he will work honestly, sincerely, and he thinks that if I do it, I can please God. Okay, that is one category. Another category is one, if I renounce and cultivate Atma Jnana, then I can please God. That means he is more inclined, he'll think more and he will be able to read scriptures and he is more inclined in that manner. So actually, we can see this in ISKCON also, in devotees, among the devotees also, we find these two classes of devotees. That is, devotees are interested, some, when they come into this movement, they'll be interested in doing seva. They'll be doing this seva, that seva, they will always doing that, engage themselves, and they may not have time to read scriptures or study or attend the courses. But there is another type of category of devotees who do not like to move around. So they generally sit and teach and study and chant. They want to learn and learn, don't like to move around. But both are addressed as yogena. So here, Jnana Yogena and Karma Yogena. That's what here Krishna is saying. So these two are, so what's the confusion here is that, okay, one is trying to do the work and dutifully and to please the Lord. And the other one is trying to develop the knowledge, is Atma Jnana and right. But actually, both are working for self-realization. That means both have the same goal. So it's not that they have taken a different paths and they have different goals. No. They have the same goal. And only thing is, it's at different stages. The path only is the different levels. So here Krishna said there are different stages in yoga ladder. So how does that means? How does it work for us and help us to guide others in spirit? So we have to understand this very clearly, that it's not that we have a different path. That means you have to take up only the karma yoga and reasoning or only jnana. They are at different levels, okay, of the same path, right? Because both are same thing. Then, not merely by abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Na karmana anaramban, naishkarmya purushosnate, na cha sannyasi. So what does here it says? This is something which you need to understand here. There is both yogas are interdependent as religion and philosophy. In the purport, Prabhupada writes how they are both are interdependent. That means first in the beginning when you start in this Krishna consciousness when you want, then you have to work because the prescribed duties are required for purification, right? That's what the Lord says. So once you work, do the seva and once you work in this attitude, then later you can, then once your heart is purified, then you're able to read the scriptures. Then the scriptures will make a lot of sense, okay? So just doing, that means karma yoga, just doing devotional service is not enough, but you'll have to also develop knowledge. But that will come at a later stage when you are almost verified. So that's why he says both the karma yoga and thing are interdependent. So if you see so when you see the purport, I think you can read the purport. Prabhupada writes nicely here. So not the, so here in the purport things he says, the renounced order of life can be accepted. One has been purified by the discharge of prescribed form of duties. Okay. Without purification, one cannot attain success by adopting the fourth order of life. According to empirical phenomena, simply by adopting sannyasi or retiring from fruitive activities, one at once becomes as good as Narayana. So, but Lord Krishna does not approach this principle. Without purification of heart, so he says prematurely, if you have not purified yourself and then you take up sannyas, it's not recommended by the Lord. So he says you have to be purified. And that too, how do you purify yourself? By doing your prescribed duties. So even a slight performance of this enables one to pray. So now Krishna thing, everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for more. Why you have to do your prescribed duties? Here, Krishna is coming, clearly telling us that our nature itself is that we cannot be quiet. We have to be active all the time. We are forced to act helplessly because of the qualities we have acquired from the modes of nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. So our basic nature is to act, okay, because of the modes of nature. And we have our own innate. Now, when we take up this body, when we come with a particular body, we'll have a particular nature. that is there by the material modes of nature thing. So in that way, we are active by nature. So here the soul is all the time active by nature. So we can't remain silent. We need to work. So work is required, something to engage our mind. Otherwise, if you don't give some work to it, the mind will go in a different manner. So we need to engage our mind because it requires work. It is active. So we are active in nature, so we need engagement, and the occupation is dictated by either you do it for the Lord or you work for your sense gratification. So there is no loss if there's a founder. So we saw that, that if you work for the Lord, there is no loss even if there's a founder, because it's carried out. Because we are in contact with material nature, we are acquired the modes of nature. So precise. So how do you? So we are active in nature. So we need to engage it. And how do you engage it? Either you can engage it for your own sense gratification, or you can engage it for the law. So this is since soul is always active, for us to take up renouncing is difficult. It's not recommended. And here Krishna says this doing prescribed duties, what happens? You get purified. So another thing is we have our own svabhava. You can't take up that nature which we get from, because we have this body. We have our own nature. So we can't force anybody to, because he's got his own nature and he will act as per that. Okay. So, and here Prabhupada says that you need to act for the Lord. Prescribed duties purifies the soul from affinities and it leads to Krishna consciousness. If not, then failure. So we need to do that. Then karmendriyani samyamya yaste manasa smaran indriyanati vimudatma mityachara chavati. One who restrains his sense of action but whose mind dwells on sense objects certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. So we know, Arjuna's doubt is that if I act, if there's an action, then there's a bondage. So why at all? If I don't do any activity, then I won't have any bondage, isn't it? So any sinful reaction. So he thinks, let me be inactive. But if you are physically inactive, but your mind is still active, if your mind is still on the sense object, that means you'll still be bonded. That means you're not completely free. That means you have not completely controlled your senses. So here Krishna says that such a person who is not able, who has not restrained his sense of action, but whose mind still dwells on sense objects, then he is a mityachara. That means he is a pretender. So that is not recommended. So he says, and this Prabhupada says this lot of sadhus are there in like that, who are all the time just take up sannyas, but they are not prepared. And he will even talk about philosophies and all that, but still they were not, but still their mind will be dwelling on sense objects. So this is also the Krishna says not meant. But on the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the mind, active senses by the mind, and begins karma yoga without attachment, is 5 bars. So karmendra karma yoga mashakta. So you do your actions and connect to the Lord without thing, then it is without attachment. So one who restrains senses but mind dwells on sense objects is a pretender. It's a cheat actually. Shows to be in deep, he says he's in deep meditation, he's taken thing and he will think, but his mind is still on the sense objects. We saw the sadhuna is still having a mobile and he's smoking and all that. So he's still denying. So his philosophy has no value, right? And his knowledge is stolen by Maya. But for sense enjoyment, it could be in any of the 4 orders. Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. But if you follow the rules and regulations of orders and do your prescribed duty and a thing, then there will be a gradual purification. So we need not take up sannyas. That's what he says. Other, you need your purification. So since a person who is able to control his senses engages in karma yoga without attachment is far superior. So let us see in the purport that gives a nice example. Instead of becoming a pseudo-transcendence for the sake of wanton living and sense enjoyment, it is far better to remain in one's own business and execute the purpose of life, which is to get free from material bondage and enter into kingdom of God. So here, instead of going and taking sannyas, if you just be wherever you are and then do your own duty, and then you will get free from the material bondage and also free from the cycle of birth and death. So the prime Svata Gati or goal of self-interest is to reach Vishnu. The whole institution of Varna Ashrama is designed to help us reach the goal of life. So here he says it doesn't matter you have to become a Brahmana or a sannyasa. All you have to do, even a householder can reach this destination by regulated service in Krishna consciousness. For self-realization, one can live a controlled life as prescribed in the Shastras and continue carrying out his business without attachment. That way you make progress. So if you just do a duty and don't connect to the Lord, that means you will get material benefit, fine. But spiritually you won't have progressed. But if you do your duty and in a detached manner and offer the results to the Lord, that way you will be progressing spiritually. So here Krishna says a sincere person who follows this method is far better than the false pretender who adopts the show what is spiritualism, to cheat the innocent public. A sincere sweeper in the street is far better than the charlatan meditator who meditates only for the sake of making a living. So even if a sweeper is there and is doing his duty, is much better than a charlatan. And why do we need to do a duty? Because we need to purify ourselves. For purification, we need the thing. And as soul is all the time active. The mind requires some engagement. So we need duty work, and work has to be done as a duty, as a thing, and not as a, okay. So Krishna is saying a dutiful householder is better than a pretender sannyasi. So one should be a good grihastha, that's all. Okay. Perform a prescribed duty, for doing is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work. So just do your duty, so at least maintain your body and don't become a thing to that society. Niyatam kuru karma tvam, karma jayo karmanaha, sharira etrapi sa na prasidakava. So if by doing, we are maintaining our physical body also, we are not depending on the society. Okay, so we have that. So last verse. Performing prescribed duties is better than not working, right? Gradually, there's a purification heart. And by renouncing what happens prematurely, you'll fall down since activity is given up before purifying the heart, right? So Arjuna is a Kshatriya and a Grihastha. He engaged himself in war, not renouncing and going to the forest. So work should not be given up capriciously without purification of materialist propensities. So we understand. So this, see, when we are in this world, we have to do action, right? And how to do your action, how to do active, it starts with that. So that's what this chapter is all about, how to karma yoga. Okay. Egnartha karmano yantra lokoyam karma bandhana tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangam samchara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and that way you will always remain free from bondage. Here it is Narada Muni will be explaining this to Yudhishthira Maharaj, okay, about his duties as a king and what are the things there. So here, what does Krishna say? We have to do Nishkama Karma Yoga because it allows the soul to be active but in a detached way and protects him from bondage, right? So perform work as a sacrifice to Vishnu. See, here Krishna doesn't tell you to work for me as a sacrifice. Here he says perform work as a sacrifice to Vishnu. Why? Because he's talking about Varnashrama system, right? He's telling about he has a duty as a Kshatriya, and the Varnashrama Dharma is made that so that you do corporately work as a sacrifice to Vishnu. He's the one who's maintaining the material world, right? Or else work causes bondage. So action is performed for satisfaction of the Lord or Krishna. Then it is not binding but liberating, right? And that how do we do that? We have to do it under the guidance of a spiritual master. Then you will be gradually elevate and develop transcendental love in service of the Lord. So this is the trick we have to. So this is what the Krishna is telling us, to perform work as a sacrifice to Vishnu, or else work causes bondage. And then we will be able to go back to God. But if you otherwise, what happens? It causes bondage, cycle of birth. So you are caught up in the cycle of death, birth and death, if you do it for your own service gratification. And whether you do good activities or bad, both have reactions, okay? And you will be in the cycle of. So finally, what is the last verse today? He's saying work done for Vishnu and not for me. In this, because we are talking of karma yoga yet, okay? And in Varnashrama Dharma is still working within the framework of the material world, and Vishnu is the maintainer of the material. So we should do for satisfaction of Vishnu, like the Purusha. So here we are still not talking about Bhakti Yoga. We are still in the Karma Yoga, right? So he is telling, so work, how do you do your work? You do the work as a duty and work work not for the results, and work as a yajna and do it as a sacrifice to Vishnu, Lord Vishnu. Okay. Then it's not binding, and we will be able to gradually develop progress in the spiritual life. Okay. See, spiritual life is internal, and whereas the material benefits is the external, right? So this is a simple thing. So if you look at the progressive thing, if you don't do anything, if you just live only for eating, mating, and only for sense gratification, you are in the animal life. And when do you go up? When you start regulating your sense gratification, you regulate your activities. That means you're controlling the senses. You're regulating your senses and things. That is, you're just doing the duty for yourself, okay? But in a regulated manner. But if that is karma kanda. Now, Krishna is taking us from this level to up level, to sakama karma yoga, nishkama karma yoga. This is the yoga ladder which we are talking in this chapter, okay? So, karma kanda means you are just regulating the sense gratification, and when you offer the results to the Lord, then that means you are sacrificing, then it becomes Nishkama karma. That means Nishkama is completely with no desires, but Sakama means partially you give the results to the Lord. So this is the progressive yoga ladder which you are talking in this chapter. Okay. If there are any doubts in this, you can ask me, because we'll close with this. This concept we should understand clearly, because how we are in the spirit, because we always have this doubt, how to balance our life in material life with the spiritual life. How do we have to counteract these two? What priority we have to give and things. So this is something, this concept we should understand clearly. Then we will be able to understand how Krishna is taking Arjuna step by step logically, is taking him into this yogic ladder. Okay. And yoga means unless you connect with the Lord, action becomes a yoga. If you don't connect, it is just to connect. So let us stop here. Vancha kalpatra abhyascha kripa sindhyevacha patitam nam parnyapo vaishnavo namo namo. Stop sharing, and also let me stop. So any doubt in this? Because this Karma Yoga, Hare Krishna. Vishayapali Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji. Any doubt in this chapter? I mean, till this, whatever the slokas we just did.
No, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Renuka Mataji, Lohit, Jyoti Gupta.
All good, Mataji. Mataji, attendance link.
I think she should share, no? You have not shared? Manasi Mataji? She will share the link soon, okay?
Thank you, Mataji.
She shared it, okay, good. So this karma means work, duty, depending on the situation. So we'll see the next sloka. We can, tomorrow we'll take it more in elaborate how the Krishna is talking. So anything else, any other doubt in this today what we did or in the last two chapters? Hare Krishna. Okay. So if not, we'll see tomorrow. Okay, right. Got the link for the attendance? Thanks, fine. Hare Krishna. So I'll end the session if no doubts today.